106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Let's get this show on the road.
Before you say anything, prepare to shut the fuck up.
Screw me. I ripped ass at the ATM.
McLovin! Nice!
Sit back, relax, and enjoy Irrelevant Platitudes with your hosts, Peter Benici and Lil Dazil.
5, 4,
Jimmy Walks.
3, 2, 1, fire!
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to episode number 58 of Irrelevant Platitudes. We're your hosts, Peter Benici and
Lil Dazil, and
Jimmy Walks.
bring you a relevant commentary on all things pop culture, dating, and relationships.
What up, guys? How's everybody doing?
I'm good. How are you, Nooch?
I'm good.
Awesome.
I guess we'll break because it'll be on the screen for everyone that's watching. We got a special guest this week, sexologist Emily Duncan. Say hi, Emily.
Hello, everyone. So glad to be here.
That delay
Glad
scared the
to have
shit out of
you.
me. Did you see the mouth moving?
Yeah.
She was like, it's all broken.
Slight delay on the line. We've
No,
brought
it's fine.
Em on this week to clue in the listener base on all things above and below the bed sheets.
Yes.
Lala, all that bullshit, host intros.
That's
Work
literally me
for
writing that
you.
so we can talk now, James. Good job. But yeah, so we've obviously got Em on this week. I think Lil's a little bit super excited.
Yes, this is all of my special interest stuff that's going to be coming out. So I'm very excited for the questions to ask and the answers to hear, which I'm very keen on.
Yeah, so it's all the guys and girls listening today. We're going to hit Em with obviously our standard questions, plus kind of a little bit deeper and I guess kind of delving into what you do and how easily accessible it is to most people and how it can really kind of enhance you as a human being and things that might be kind of troubling you and all that sort of stuff. So without further ado, do you want to give us your little self-intro?
Yeah, so my name's Emily Duncan. My pronouns are she, her. So I'm a sexologist. I'm based in Geelong. I do online sex coaching sessions for individuals and couples to help cultivate sexual wellness.
Fucking oath.
Yes.
G-Town. So that's a little bit outside of Melbourne. But I guess how do you see yourself kind of always kind of being Geelong based, or you're looking to kind of move at some point?
No, I've only been here for this might be my 5th year here. I actually grew up, I don't know if you know Port Fairy, a little small coastal town on a farm. So I've only been here for a little bit, but I'm so ready to get out. I'm bored and
Oh, shit.
But you're
so
in the
ready for
right field to
something
be
new.
doing this in that case.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The only thing that's kind of motivated me to stay a bit is the fact that there isn't really sexologists in Geelong. There's one other. So there is the room for more sexologists here. So trying to capitalize on that is one thing that's kind of kept me here, but I'm also so ready to go.
That'd really help you if you were applying for the NEIS, the new Enterprise Incentive Scheme. If there's limited other people doing that service in that area.
Yeah, they provide business training and all of that start
And
out.
they
I remember
can
I
give you
was
some
going to do
extra
that
funding.
for business.
No shit.
Yeah,
NEIS.
up to
If anyone out
20K.
there is thinking of starting a business, one of the main criteria is that you've got to have a point of difference. And
Yeah,
if you
from
were
other people.
you're one of very few sexologists and you had a slightly different angle than the other one in your area, you could be able to get some government grants.
It's true.
It's fucking about. Where did you pull that from? That's
boost your
fantastic.
income. I told Lil about it before.
You should
she
tell me
started her
about it.
business.
I got my ABN last week.
Yeah, well, fuck it. I got
What
a
are
good
you
business
doing?
idea. I want to get
This?
started.
What do you mean?
Oh, okay. Well, I was just are we
Hello.
starting a new fucking business? I was so confused.
Oh,
But
the
yeah.
business has to have value though. Is the only.
Oh,
Eat
savage.
a bag of dicks, sir. Eat a bag of dicks. But all right, so we're gonna start kind of a little bit about you. Sum up your dating life in 4 words.
Okay, this was actually really hard because I feel like there isn't even 4 words to describe it. So I had shambles,
Yeah.
boring, vanilla, and I was like, can I say boring again because there's literally nothing going on.
Maybe 3 Z's to symbolize. But damn, that sucks. To
Yeah,
be-
Yeah.
Do you find
Feel
people
like
are always
everybody-
like, this is we expect you to have this kind of big bustling thing, but is it just that thing where when you work in it, it kind of diminishes, or is it just you're in a low point at the moment with that?
I think it's just I'm in Geelong and there's not much left.
Yeah.
I've already
You're
gone
not
around the
wrong.
block.
Is there a Point Hunk close to Point Fairy? Because you might get more action. If you
Like
move there.
it, yes.
Nah, it's not. It's not. Doesn't probably not as bad as it sounds, but I feel like I'm just not really dating much at the moment. Like I just kind of can't be bothered. So it's just not as exciting. Like I'm open to have it be exciting and wild and everything. You know, not what I said, but it's just not that at the moment.
Do you feel like it maybe your kind of guy isn't in Geelong?
I guess probably. I think because also I know I don't really want to settle here forever.
Yeah, don't.
Like not really
all the
looking
time.
for that long term. You know what I mean? I don't want to get stuck here or end up like actually liking somebody and actually considering somebody else and not doing what
Yeah.
I want to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
You
valid.
don't
And
wanna
you're just
get-
starting your career. Like, don't.
Exactly.
Don't want to get
Geelong.
stuck wanting to stay in Geelong. That's some good
Very
advice.
true.
No, absolutely.
I think
So I
Geelong's
feel
getting a bad
like
rap, but it's not.
Don't give
too
yourself a
bad.
reason. Just get to Melbourne as soon as you can.
Just get the fuck out of here.
no,
Ja-
100%. I
James is
agree.
another country kid as well. So was it Benders?
Are
or
you where you
Ballarat?
from?
Country kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
I grew up in.
Yeah.
It's a regional centre. I grew up in
Oh, okay.
Bendigo in central Victoria. 100,000 people.
Yeah.
So it's the same. It's one of those places where, you know, if you meet somebody new, you tell your friend and he's like, oh yeah, I fucked her and so did everyone else. Cool. Not it's not so much about the
reduces the intimacy. I
makes me
guess.
sound like an idiot to a sexologist, but the point I make is it's
true, though.
it's a small pool and everyone knows everyone and there's no anonymity.
There's less privacy
And
there. Yeah.
So you
I
can't,
agree.
Can't be a sicko in a place like
Especially if you use dating apps, I feel like that limits it even more because if everybody's using the same dating apps and you got the same few hundred people to go from, everybody kind of knows everybody who's single and trying to get some.
Even from what I understand, and I don't use dating apps.
Yeah,
even from
he's
what I understand,
never
it's the same
used a
thing in
dating app in
Melbourne.
his life. We want we're
Wow.
trying to force him to
I
do
got
it
as
so
far
bad.
as I was going to like upload
consideration
some
of it.
pictures, but it's like a bird in a mirror. I just got to looking at pictures.
It'll be
of
the
myself
best
looking
episode
at
ever
them.
if we make your profile on the podcast.
Yeah, I know you really want me to do
I
that
so
and
badly want you
just
to do
make
that.
it. In fact, it's probably the only excuse for a reason that I would potentially do it, but I won't encourage you at this point in time.
That's all right. So do you want to hit question 2? And we'll just do...
Yeah. Just go back
Circular
into
way?
our normal
Yeah.
circle. So, what are your top green flags and top red flags? And this is personal, obviously, not just what we speak to our clients with, just things that are, I guess, more personalized for you.
Yeah, so for me personally, them actually doing what they'll say they'll do. Like if they say they're going to take me on a date, that they actually do that. Because
Valid.
I've had a lot of the opposite of that. Good communication, obviously, like somebody who actually puts in the effort to communicate, isn't boring and like knows how to talk. And then somebody who also respects boundaries. I think that's a really good one for me. And then my red flags, the things I'm most attracted to. Yes, that they only ever see like me on their own terms and don't really compromise.
Yeah.
There's no foreplay, massive red flag.
Yeah.
And when they say their ex is crazy, because every time they've ever said that, they're 100% the problem.
It's a common thing. We've heard that how many times?
It's
all
been
about
pretty
And
it.
that's
consistent
why
across the
I
last
never
few
tell
weeks.
anyone that my crazy ex is crazy. I just keep that shit to myself.
Yeah, you are so good at keeping that to
Exactly.
yourself.
Yeah.
The poor guy has objectively had some of the worst dating experiences
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But you wear it with like a badge of honor. You're like, no, it's fine.
I
It's
actually
okay.
actively pursue crazy chicks. So, you
That's
know,
just
my
your
ex is
jam.
crazy and I'm wearing it like a badge of honor. So,
In a positive.
not really.
way.
I'm fucking dying inside. But,
All right, next one, you're up. Jimmy.
oh, it's me. What is your shortest and longest intimate relationship
Yeah.
you've been in?
So shortest would be a few months, like probably like max 2 months being like official,
Yeah.
but like 6 months kind of seeing each other. And then longest was 3 years, but that was in high school. So like they're like a different kind of relationship, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the shortest and longest penis sizes that you've encountered?
He's going off script.
I don't have my ruler handy. No.
Any
I
other
have to get my
measurements will do.
logbook. It's actually in the spare room.
Guest penis size comparisons.
Oh
I
my
love it.
God.
I think Lil's got a spreadsheet on that. I'm pretty sure. But
So you think like
Nothing on
since
size.
kind of getting out of high school and stuff and obviously going
Performance.
through, so you haven't had any relationships that kind of pushed out past the 2 year mark?
No, honestly, I haven't. Like, even the few months was when I was 18. Like,
Yep.
it was a year after high school. But other than that, I've literally had nothing. Like, one situationship. And that's been it. Like, I really haven't had any long-term relationships at all.
So no damage, no trauma. You don't hate men.
No,
Yeah.
I'm pretty like a little bit of an anxious attachment
Yeah.
from the casual dating scene, but apart from that, like no
That's
bad
healthy.
trauma.
Better than
Yeah.
better than the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And look, I think that's fairly common given the new nature of the way dating happens and stuff. Because you're so thrust
You're almost a
into
bit more
so many
filtering.
different instances of relationships, you kind of like rejection was only kind of something that was not sparse, but not as like easily attainable as it is
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And if you cop it that often and that quickly,
You do adjust quite quickly.
dude, honestly, as someone who's like fairly confident, even I sometimes had to be like, it's not normal, it's okay, you're fine. And
Yeah.
especially through COVID and stuff too, that compressed it even more. Because I don't know if you were single during COVID or not, but dating through COVID, everyone was on every app.
Yeah.
So you just had
Absolutely.
like,
You had nothing else to do.
whilst you had more matches, you had more rejection, you had more of everything. So that was like this massive learning curve that I just had to kind of sit on my hands and
through.
just be like, it's going to be okay, just don't cry, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
so now I feel you on that one, my
Absolutely.
friend.
I feel like we're seeing a lot less of like long-term relationships. Like it's seeming to be more and more normal to like going throughout your whole 20s being single or like being like my age. Like I have so many friends who have never had a partner. Like it just is seemingly
Jesus.
becoming less and less common to have these like long-term relationships.
It's definitely a lot
good
more
is it?
casual. Oh, I mean, it depends on your preference and what you want, right?
I guess
where you're at in your own
everyone's got a
life
gauge.
stage.
I don't even think we have the question, but if you don't mind answering, how old are you?
23.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So that's
I'm no longer the baby.
she hates it. Like, you're so young and you've got so much to look forward to.
No, but it's great. I like being able to speak to individuals who are also well versed in the in the whole information.
I don't think I had my first like long cracker of a relationship until like 25.
Hmm.
To be honest, maybe 24. I lie. I think it was 24. But okay. So, how would your friends describe your ideal partner?
Okay, so they described, I put this in the group chat, and they described the ideal partner. Don't think it's a healthy ideal partner, but this is what they think I typically
This
go
is
for.
why it's always the best. Yeah,
Brilliant.
100%.
So they were like younger, toxic, hot, with a mustache, tanned, rough around the edges.
So you date fuckboys, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, pretty much.
I like the mustache component. I think that's the only one that I
The
can
hipstery
resonate with.
fuckboy?
Like, I don't like that style. I don't mind a good mustache. I don't know why it went from pervy to kind of hot, but that transition
did that
pipeline
happen?
was like
I had this conversation with
like
Amy.
3 or 4 years ago.
It was around
when
the
it became a
time
bit of a
I
trend.
grew my
Yeah.
mustache,
you said
actually.
And I think that's about the same time I met
And
you.
then it took off after that.
But about 3 or 4 years ago,
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever do a mustache.
I
just-
do. I don't.
I don't think
know.
my face suits it. you
I'm
know?
a bit more of a
I
beards
don't think
gal.
you could not
but
do
I
a mustache. You'd shave
like
it
a
off
good
and it'd be
one.
back
Do you
by
want me-
10 a.m.
I'll just try it tomorrow, like next week.
No,
I'll come on with a
mate.
stash. Do you reckon?
You would look like a Mario.
It would. Yeah,
No.
that'd be incredibly racist.
You would.
That would-
You're a fucking wog, and I'm
Okay.
wog. You can't. Well, I guess you can be racist in your own culture, but.
Next question, Lil.
So tell us a bit about one of the best dates that you've been on and why you consider it the best.
I'll pick up 5. after this.
So, best date I've been on, it was kind of across 2 dates with the same person that
Ooh,
kind of made it the best
understand that.
altogether, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically like he came and picked me up. It was like straight off a dating app, which I normally don't do. Like normally I get like their Snapchat
Safety
or Instagram or
first
something.
in public. Come on,
Yeah,
not picking up at your house.
Yeah, no, normally I
just really hot,
I'm
okay?
better. But it was just one of those spontaneous things where we messaged and just straight away was like, let's get dinner.
Yep.
And yeah, he had like this old, I don't know if you know like your old cars, like an HJ wagon, came and like picked me up in
That's a
that. We
car.
went and got pizza and we went up to like this like hill that was like a
Like a lookout.
lookout.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like no one else was there because it was like his own private
Did you fuck
property
there?
and like family
Oh.
and stuff. No, it was really wholesome. Like literally just like ate and then I had to leave because I had class at like 8 o'clock that night. So then that was that. But it was just like really wholesome. Somebody I would never have picked to go on a date with and like really surprised me. And then the second date we went for drinks and like the sexual tension was just like insane. I
there.
remember we were like walking out of the like restaurant we were at. It was like staircase and I was just being bratty and he just like grabbed me by the back of my neck, like just firmly, like kind of like walked me down the stairs to the car. And I was just like, it was just one of those moments of like the sexual tension. It was just perfect. But then went back to his mum's house.
Well,
It wasn't because when you're my age, they're still with their mums.
You should have fucked in the panel van at the car park.
Yeah,
I know, but I couldn't have sex with him because I was being treated for chlamydia. So it added to the
sexual tension. You just have to wait that 2 weeks and then you're good
so
to go.
I think that's why I ended up being the best one, because like we could do everything else kind of, but like my pants didn't come off, but it was just like the sexual tension was so insane.
Did you offer him the option to possibly contract chlamydia and still go ahead with the sexual encounter?
No, I was having my period at the time, so I was just like, "Oh, I've got my period."
Mate, that was.
Did you discuss the options with him? Because
I think you've developed the ultimate female strategy of just being like, "We're not having sex. Trust me. There's no fucking way."
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't feel sexy. Fair enough.
Oh, that sounds like a great like set of two dates though, and like the way that it started as well with like the lookout, the pizza. It sounds really wholesome.
The riskiness.
No, it was good.
Of the
no second contact, the panel van, the fucking isolated lookout spot, the second location.
James is taking notes. That's why.
It's very romantic.
He's got the laptop to take notes.
Just gonna add the chlamydia, and it's a perfect date.
That was actually fucking hilarious. Venus like them. Yes, sorry, that wasn't gonna happen.
It's getting a mattress for my panel van. So what advice do you often end up giving your friends the most? And maybe even your clients for that matter as well.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So it's kind of hard to answer because I feel like my friends have such diverse problems, but I feel like it kind of just comes back to like them being themselves, trusting their like gut, faking it till they make it. I feel like a lot of like issues kind of come around confidence. So just like believing in themselves, sending that text, going on that date, standing up for themselves, doing that thing that they're kind of scared to do. I feel like that's probably like what a lot of it comes back to.
Yeah.
It's like really kind of almost humbling to see that like girls need to fake it till they make it too. Because like as a dude, you assume that you're like the insecure one and you're the one that has to like have the bravado and like all the fake kind of bells and whistles. And like we've actually never had anyone say that before. So like single Nooch would have been like, oh, they're fucking all the same way I am. We could just connect and talk and no one has to be fake.
No, it's true though. There's a lot of lack of confidence when it comes to the dating scene.
Yeah. Because you're trying to like be the perfect you.
You know, self-preservation as well of behaviors to try to meet a match and see if it works.
It's also because the objective's different. Because often with a guy, they're just trying to meet the bar of like get a date, get a second date, get a kiss, get a root, whatever it is. You know, so their bar's quite low. Whereas I think a lot of women are looking for more or looking for something beyond that, so they can easily get this thing. And so we look at that and go, oh, hey, you can get. You know, sex, or you know, you can get dates or whatever it is, and we think, oh, that's a win. But sometimes it's different.
The exact opposite. You're
different framework that we're looking through, different lens.
All right, so we're going to shift gears into more about like your work now and how that kind of interacts with you in your dating life. So, do you find that, given your nature or your work, that impacts like the partners that you have? So, when you're dating and stuff, do they know you're a sexologist out of the gates, or do you kind of keep that one yourself?
Depends how I'm feeling. Sometimes, because like often it's going to end up with me being sexualized most of the time. I don't know if it's just like the age I'm dating, but they're either like super curious or just, you know, they sexualize me. So sometimes it just kind of depends, I guess, on like what my intentions are too. Like if I'm wanting something more casual, or if it's a night out and I'm just like looking for a route, I'll literally come out with it in the first 30 seconds. Like I'll be like, hi, I'm Emily, I'm a sexologist.
Yeah.
Really good
and oh my God, it works. It's the best pickup line. It is like the best pickup line ever. It works like all the time. So if I'm, you know, I can abuse it sometimes, but then I often find sometimes I'll want to hold it back and wait until like, say if I'm meeting them off a dating app, like till we're on the date so I can gauge their reaction in person, because it can be quite entertaining too, like seeing them crumble or like, you know, handle it well. So yeah, I think like it just depends like when I say it, but like how it impacts it is like, generally I get sexualized a lot. So kind of, because I've been on this path of being a sexologist for like 4 years, so it's been a conversation for the past 4 years, and so maybe that's why I haven't been finding like these long-term relationships, because often they do just be like, okay, like they just want to fuck me because they think I'm gonna be like this freak in the sheets and it's exciting, and I feel like I definitely go into like that box of like fun.
Are you getting like the extra pressure to be more fun when you sleep with someone now?
Yeah, so that's why I often try and like set the standard low. Like even coming into this episode being like, my sex life is boring, this and that.
Yeah.
Like I try and like set it almost down the other end of the spectrum so that it's like with anything though. Like if you have low expectations going into something and it just meets the bare minimum, you think it's so much better than what it is.
That's like my last relationship.
Yeah, literally. Whereas if you like have high expectations and it doesn't meet that, it's obviously not gonna, be
You're like the Marvel movies of having sex. You're like, let's go.
That's what it is.
Wow, that was a fucking dig.
But you should know. But it's like that thing, only the one true king would deny being king. You should actually not tell anyone you're a sexologist. And then when you've agreed when you're going to have sex with them, then, do some crazy shit and just be like, it's okay, I'm a sexologist.
Let me open my drawer.
Just as you're tying a strap on, just be like, it's okay, I'm a sexologist.
Just as she gets the details written down, just be like, it's fine, you'll be okay. Have a card.
I know what I'm doing, and you flip out your ID, sexologist.
We can make you a badge if you like. Make an IrrPlatPod sexologist badge. That'd be so fucking dope.
Yeah.
I also find they can get intimidated though too. So it can also go the other way.
Yeah.
They can be like intimidated and like not wanting to take control in the bedroom. So they'll kind of expect me to just do everything and be the one who's telling them exactly what I want, communicating, doing everything. But I'm like, it's not just one-sided. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And if you date younger as well, they're instantaneously going to be like, well, I've got no experience as is. I'm going to say that
I'm
loud,
surprised. I think that they'd be more cocky, if anything.
Really?
But
Yeah,
they might be
but
like, you're
we
a
can ask the-
sexologist, I'm outclassed,
Yeah, but I
As a young
don't know.
man,
If
that would
you
be
don't have a
terrifying.
fully developed brain, and no offense or anything, but if you're going younger, they wouldn't have it because it's under the age of 25.
No, God no.
By default, they would probably be
And
more
also they're males, so
immature
they're
and
a couple of
naturally
years
more
behind as well.
impulsive, right? So they'd probably maybe you can answer it in terms of older, younger, who is less intimidated by, I guess, amount or proportion. If you've got the answers around that.
So I often find outside of the bedroom, older gets quite defensive and critical almost and standoffish towards me, and they meet me like every time I've been out and like having conversations with older men, it's getting fiery. They don't necessarily like challenging how they have sex and the sexual scripts that they have, and you can tell it's almost them being a bit threatened. Younger ones are so open-minded and curious. They just want to learn.
Yeah.
They just are like, tell me everything you know. They're fascinated by me. It's probably why I go for it, because it's a bit of a power trip, to be honest. And they like it's so much of a nicer energy almost. Whereas like literally the amount of older guys that I have literally started like bickering or nearly like fighting with out and stuff, because they just don't want to challenge the way that they have sex or think that they're not amazing at it in the way that they're doing it.
That's so hectic.
Definitely
I thought it would be the exact opposite.
Definitely use that to screen. Nah, I'm not surprised by that at all whatsoever.
It does. It makes sense, right? Because you do like now. I'm thinking like outside, like the broader circles and stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised if you said that that most men were threatened by it. So I'm actually relieved to hear that, and it makes sense that younger men would be less threatened and more open to it. So I'm relieved to hear that.
It sounds rough because then they're more passive and they're like, just do anything.
But
then the alternative is like the aggressive guy's like, don't know how to fuck, I'm gonna fuck you properly. It's
but I also
like, you
think
can't
that
find this.
I think there'd be plenty of
space.
older people who would, but I think that's probably where, if you're deciding where to drop, hey, I'm a sexologist, maybe you don't have to drop it to the younger person because they're going to be cool with it. But maybe you drop it on the older person later on just to fucking get them out of the picture, if they're
Which I think is what you were saying, right?
jerk-off.
Like you very much gauge like fairly early on if you're going to tell them straight away or later or kind of keep that.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, and when I do tell them, it pretty much can tell me straight away how it's going to go. Like
Really?
they're so easy. Yeah, 100%. Like you can just, it's so obvious. Like the amount of guys who especially when I was studying sexology, they'd be like, oh, what are you studying? And I'd say like sexology. And they straight away would be like, oh, well, like you can practice on me or I can help you study. And it's just straight away, it's like, cool, you go in that box.
No, but it's so true.
Like literally.
It's a good gag.
Yeah, it was like,
kind of.
hey,
If you ever need help
like 8
cramming, I can help you out with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Horrendous. No,
guys being too
I
stiff,
resonate
right?
with that. Like, I'm sorry, I can't help it. Oh no, that went shoo right over my
Because
head.
you guys are having such a good, serious conversation, great
It's because I'm
interactions. I feel
having
like I
my
gotta play the fool in
intellectual
this
boner
situation.
stimulated. But like, I resonate with that too because I wanted to be a sexologist as well. And every time someone would say, oh, what are you studying? I'd be like, oh, I'm studying psychology, but I'm really interested in being a sexologist. And I've been wanting to do sexology since I was like 14. I was literally giving advice to
Okay.
people. Well,
Can we
I
say that
like
on the podcast?
sex. No, but like, oh, have I not
Yeah.
said that before?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. But
I've been
like,
wanting to
I
do
used to give advice to all these people, and like the minute that you'd say sex or sexology or any interest around the word sex, it is like flames in the eyes of, oh my God, instant sexualization, or like you said, that intimidation of, oh. So I get that, and it's
I guess it's
fucking difficult
polarizing,
in that
right?
way.
So
It
it
is.
pushes you one way or the other.
Maybe sexology needs a rebranding because sex is such a powerful word.
Just
Like, you know,
a
that
big
thing like
word.
sex,
Yeah.
man, we've got your attention by our
So I'm
shit.
saying you should call it you're a cum genie. Like you,
No,
Oh my God.
that's way
That would
cheapening
not
it.
help.
Because, well, let's
no,
just,
really.
It's because I didn't do my research, and I know that there's like a whole range of what sexology and sex therapies and things like that.
Encompasses, yeah.
And that, so what exactly? Like, I know that you mentioned before you work with couples and whatever. What sort of thing is it that you do in your sexology work?
Well,
Great
I guess
question.
like sexology is kind of like the study of like sexual human behavior, but also like sexuality. Like it's not actually, a lot of the work hardly even comes down to the actual sex. It's all the shit
the
that's attached
psychology,
to sex. Yeah,
communication.
society, like all of that stuff, everything, how you've been brought up to who you are now, what you've been taught about sex, and how that is now impacting how you view your body, how you view pleasure, how you view sexual relationships, sex, like how it's all impacted.
It's like a type
So-
it's like a type of psychology or relationship therapy that's based around sexual interaction.
Yeah, pretty much. It basically it is. So like when you do sexology, you kind of, there's like two different pathways that are the main ones. It's like education or therapy. So we often go into a split, or we're in the middle and do a bit of both. But like when it comes to like what you commonly will see, a lot of it's around exploring sexuality, pleasure, orgasm. A lot of people who may struggle to orgasm in certain contexts or had never orgasmed before, like sexual difficulties such as like erectile difficulties, sexual pain is another really big one, and then
Really?
exploring
Vaginismus.
like
Yeah, absolutely.
massive, especially for like vulva owners. It's such a big thing because we're often taught that that's normal. Like everyone says the first time's gonna hurt, so
It should
therefore
never
you
be.
think sex is pain. So pain is a really, really big thing.
Even as just
And
a
then
Lisa of
So you
vulvas,
go.
even as a Lisa of vulvas from time to time, I can attest to that. I've had to work around those issues. I'm not a vulva owner.
Volvo
Yeah.
I don't care
Part-time
about road
enthusiast.
safety that much, but
Yeah.
I have hired one before. Oh, not hired, sorry.
Yeah.
It's,
Well,
driven-
record it now.
Just stop
driven
talking.
one. Digging
Dig up,
deeper.
stupid.
Yeah, it's in-
Yeah, and I feel like the other parts of it are also then like kinks, communication, boundaries, exploring relationship dynamics.
I love that
Yeah, basically just everything when you think of like sexuality, confidence, pleasure, these kind of however you can tie it to sex, we can cover.
So,
Shit. Like the Swiss Army knife of sex advice and
pretty
Sure.
much. I mean, I can think of a couple of extra services that could be thrown into the mix, but obviously, I'm not.
I like
suggesting-
how triggered you get
the
by it.
next
I'm literally
question.
doing that because I'm playing the clown because there's a serious conversation taking place here. So
That's right. We're in the
Sorry.
comedy section, Lil.
yeah, that's it.
I'm not a
I'm
comedian.
in the peanut gallery
That's we
back
know.
here. Drinking my 9.6s.
But I guess so with your client bases, do you notice like a kind of drastic, mainly men, mainly women? Is there an even split? How does it kind of spread your day to day?
Definitely women. I think for because I am like identify as a woman myself, my age, definitely women. There has been like men who have been interested, but it hasn't like, it's just been like them reaching out, and like often when they reach out through email or social media, it's like, oh, is this gonna come? Like, are you just trying to?
Does that happen? Is that a thing?
Yeah, and like often like they'll message you on Instagram. It's just kind of like crossing a boundary. I'm like, if this was another service, you would email or get in contact or just book a session.
Yeah.
So, but mainly women. But then also like single women, and then women who are presenting individually but are in a relationship.
Oh no shit.
Damn, I want to ask some questions about that, but obviously there's confidentiality.
Oh, but you can speak in general
Yes,
terms if it's.
So women might
can talk
come
in
to you
general
and say,
terms,
for
just-
example, you know, I'm having, you know, there's a lack of excitement in the bedroom, or my husband's having erectile difficulties,
Yeah, is ED
or
a big
I'm
one?
unable to come, or something like that.
Yeah, so
Or
it
not
can
so big
sometimes. Yeah, so
Don't fucking
sometimes it
sound like
comes
that
in.
either, by the way. So,
Sometimes it'll come in like they'll be like, "Oh, I'm having this issue," and then by the end of the session, it's like, "Oh no, that's not the issue. It's actually that you're not having sex with your partner, or there's this mismatch of desire, or there's, you know, say an erectile difficulty, and they aren't necessarily wanting to come in and be like, I want to talk about this because it's obviously their partner and their partner's not there. So that's why obviously I offer couple sessions as well, because you may need to then be like, okay, we need to actually come in together as a couple. So often it is individual first, and then it's like, okay, let's bring that in. Obviously trying to do that as soon as possible, because but just in practice, like become a bit too, get too, like, I guess not biased, but like want to do it
That's
straight
what I
away.
was
So
thinking.
not,
Yeah.
you're just hearing one person's side of the story, and then they're going back, going, "Well, this other woman I'm speaking to is telling me that you got to start doing this."
Like, hey, John, come sit down while we talk about how your dick doesn't get hard. That's like every guy's worst nightmare.
They've been talking to this other woman about your erectile dysfunction, and she
Also,
said,
dual relationships, though, you can't really have those. So I assume that's why you probably pick it up faster for couples. But I'm not too sure how sexology works for that. Is that right?
yeah, so like it would generally be like 3 sessions. If you haven't had the couple come in, then it's like, I won't do that. You can obviously go and talk, but I'm not going to treat both of you as a couple, because it's just going to be like too much conflict by then potentially.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's pretty cool.
Do you
Yeah,
manage
dual
to make
relationships
that
are great in terms of that.
have you made that? Do you manage to make that conversion? Have you made that conversion before? And do you have like success stories with that type of?
I guess.
Not yet, just because like obviously I only started a few months ago, so I haven't really got to like, I had enough clients through of like doing that. But in the future, hopefully, yes, it'll be successful.
Absolutely. How do you find clients, by the way?
My podcast has been a big help. I started that 2 years ago because I knew when I finished my course that there wasn't just going to be this job waiting for me at the end of the course. So definitely that. I put myself out there a lot. Like, I've emailed every clinic in Geelong that's around. I go to every single event that I can that's with other like people in the field, like pelvic floor physios, like I work closely with. So anytime there's a chance to like meet up with them or interview them and things, so that just like, yeah, just putting my face out there as much as possible.
Yeah, keeping involved.
Yeah, because I feel like not many people would go to a GP and be like,
and I feel like it'd be one of those things. Like, I went to the GP and he was reluctant to refer me. He was telling me that physios were bad, and I'm like, I know that you're not I know you hate chiros, and I know you hate various other, you know, there's guys that slap fish together and stuff. Like, I know that you're not. Alternative medicine is one thing, but I could almost imagine them not rushing to
do you
refer
find
you
that?
and just going, oh, here's some Viagra or something instead, you know?
So like doctors and stuff, do you get a lot of pushback from them? Because even I guess psych back in the day, like a lot of GPs and stuff were very reluctant to push people into psychologists and stuff.
No, mental health care plans are there for the reason.
Now it is. But like
Well,
even
it's been
still,
around for quite some time.
yeah, I guess this is where the age gap
Yeah. But I suppose in terms of that, yes, there was a hesitance. But that was probably because of psychoanalytic therapies and all that.
And they make you run through a lot of hoops and stuff too.
Yeah, big times. The Medicare system in itself is still fucked. The fact that I don't think sexology would be able to cover clients that have to pay out of pocket, right? Yeah,
go try and get an ADHD diagnosis within 6 months.
Yeah, no, my wait list at the moment's pretty fucked. The accessibility for general healthcare and diagnoses, assessment, anything like that is just fucked.
So, so there's no sort of Medicare cover for anything that you offer?
Not unless you are a registered psych that specializes in this, or an accredited mental health social worker, then you can get it. Other than that, no, you can't get any funding.
Shit.
Yeah.
Are those
NDIS
avenues that
clients
you're
should be
looking
able
at?
to, though.
Are there those avenues that you're looking at, or are you gonna?
So I've been looking at going the counselling path because I know there's talks of that being added onto like the Medicare. So fingers crossed that happens. Whether it does, who knows? I just don't know about the clinical. I just don't think I could do the clinical psych and go back for another years and go through that whole process.
How many years? Sorry.
It'd be another 3 because I'd have to go back, do honours, then go do the masters.
That's a bit, yeah.
Yeah, and I've already done 4 years, so I'm just like, I just can't.
That's very understandable.
We had that conversation. Literally, you're like, I'm so done.
Yeah, no, would not recommend.
Because once you start working, you start seeing the rewards. You're like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to put all that on hold.
I do miss
or
studying
reduce
now. I
it,
want to do
and
my
then-
PhD.
I think if people
Pretty huge dick, am I right? Yeah.
people I've spoken to who do therapy, counselling, social, all these type of things, even disability work and things, will say that whatever they learn, even psychologists will say that whatever I've learned and I had to learn, but it wasn't until I started working that I really started to learn how things actually work.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, you can go for those avenues and go, oh, I might get more assured money, but you'll probably be a better sexologist by exposing yourself, if you'll pardon the term.
Yeah, and in practice, 100%.
Make some money as well, so that way you can do something on the side if you did go down a master's route.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to change gears back to more personal stuff because I haven't organised these questions properly. So back to your personal life. What's the quickest you've spoken about it before you've ever jumped into bed with someone, and the longest you've made someone wait?
Quickest would probably be like 10
I thought you
seconds.
said made someone.
No shit. Like, but this is no pre-conversation.
Well, it wasn't a
made
bed.
someone
It
wait.
was. God, if mum and dad are listening to this, gonna be like,
This is the part where you guys can tune out. We'll give them 3 seconds. Ready? 3, 2, 1. If you hear it's your own fault. Go.
So, quickest would be accidentally walking into like a bathroom, like a toilet at a club, and a guy was in there and it was like all closed off, and I just looked at him and he was hot, and I was like, bend me over, just started having sex.
Nice.
That
You
would
just
be
walked
the
up and-
quickest.
You walked up
I'm
and said,
efficient.
bend me over.
You're efficient. I love that.
You walked up, he was in the bathroom, you walked into the men's room by accident, no one else was around.
Well, it was like a unisex toilet that was just
Yeah.
off on its own. That
And
was
then
just like completely secluded.
You walked up to him and said, bend me over. Then and there, you fucked, left.
Didn't see him again.
Wow.
Goodbye,
that's
old
cool.
So that's probably the
stranger.
quickest.
Cool.
That is literally the quickest
Admiration.
this
That's my-
podcast has ever heard. You
Yeah.
now have the record for literally a 10-second fuck.
Yeah, that's
Damn.
it.
See, I say my dating life's boring, but that's like what my dating life
No,
consists
but you're
of,
keeping
just, like,
bar minimum, remember?
spontaneity.
Mm.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then longest, I wouldn't even know because I've never intentionally
Dated.
held back from somebody.
We'll talk about that as well.
If I feel the vibes and it's like I want to fuck you, I'll do that. I haven't been
Yeah.
like, oh no, I have a 3-date rule or 2-date whatever. Like,
And that's a
if
big
it's
thing
there
we
and I
try
want to,
preach. If it feels right, you shouldn't feel shamed into having sex whenever you have
Yeah.
sex.
When
If it feels
you're keen
comfortable
on
and
it.
you want to have sex with the person and it's reciprocal,
Yep.
and it feels perfectly natural,
Yep.
there is no reason to gate it behind some sort of superficial wall or some sort of worry about how it's going to be perceived. It's just going to kind of fuck with your interaction and kind of offset any sort of genuine connection you can have with someone. Because like, I mean,
absolutely.
I guess genuine connections, if the sex is bad, quite often aren't going to happen, right? So I think, denying that straight away, it's a core thing. Like, have you ever dated someone where the sex has been bad for more than like 4 days?
Yes.
Also, I haven't had
My
a...
first ex,
How
but
have we
he
never
was a
spoken about this?
virgin though.
Oh, okay, yeah,
to
yeah,
be
we did speak
fair,
about that one.
you
You
give
can
credit
also
to those
tell-
who start.
You can also tell what the sexual chemistry is going to be like
No.
prior to...
If you say about a kiss or
Really?
no,
No, not about a kiss. No,
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 the
about
whole thing. No.
Really?
Yes, I fucked a dude. Was so disappointed at the sex
Yeah.
point because everything
Really?
else, he danced sexy, he kissed amazing, he was
dancing
an
and
excellent
sex-
hugger, like
dancing and
all
sexing,
the fucking
That is a
everything,
massive... That's a huge
And he-
fucking old wives'
and he
tale.
couldn't fucking.
Look, I think
Dancing and
there was
sexing and all.
I think it's
nothing
a
in
good
their sex
indicator.
There's a
lives.
correlation.
That a person can have rhythm.
There's a correlation, but
That
there's
man
no
had
causation.
none.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot more to it than that.
It
Yeah.
was no.
Well, look,
So-
maybe I've got better judgment than others, but I
Dude.
found...
No,
I
okay,
don't.
no,
I've got
I'm
shit
pretty good
judgment.
when it comes to that
I've got
shit with the
terrible-
people that
Back
I
to the
sleep
start
with.
of the
Yeah, can we
podcast?
Yeah.
give
We're
me some
talking
credit?
about- I was talking about sexual chemistry. I was talking about social dynamics.
Well, I can,
precluding
just because I'm
sexual
autistic
chemistry.
doesn't mean I can't read those situations.
And
It's a spin. I have to learn.
Same goes for me. Maybe I just have... Maybe I've got a little lesser sample size to draw from. I don't know.
Maybe. I do have a quite expansive number set of humans I've collected.
That's it. I'm just
Anyway.
a sexographer. I'm no
So this is
sexologist.
one of your ones, Lil. We might have covered it already, but if
Yeah.
we're touching base again, that's fine. We can just flesh it out.
It's really worthy. My eyes can't read
I know.
that many
You
things.
shouldn't have written
I'll
that
do
fucking
it.
log.
I
should
know.
you?
You were the one
I
who
know.
adjusted
Did I
that,
make
not
it
me.
longer?
you
So
fuck.
Emily, I know every interview probably asks what you got into sexology for, but here at Irrelevant Platitude podcast, we'd like to flip
Claude Clark.
Why the fuck's it written like that?
See, that's
But
what
here
I'm
at-
saying. You
work.
wrote
The way
it.
he's
Wrote
written
it at
it,
work.
it says, but here at IrrPlatPod, we'd like to flip the script slightly.
I just flipped the script.
Do you think that by being a sexologist, people inherently assume that you've gotten into sexology? We've almost touched on this.
Yeah,
before.
she said yes.
To
Yeah.
personally elevate your sex life, and have you? That's a personal
The
question
follow-up
from
question's
me.
a good one,
not
though.
to be one of those people. And does that differ to what actually motivated you towards your chosen career path?
Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't had anybody like actually think, like say to me, at least I might have thought it, that I got into it to necessarily elevate my sex life. They definitely think that having had studied it, that it has elevated my sex life, which obviously it definitely has. Like
Yeah.
I've learned so much. However, what actually motivated me to get into sexology, we're back to chlamydia.
Okay.
Wow.
So chlamydia was literally the reason why I was 18, contracted chlamydia for the first time, and it was a whirlwind. I had a boyfriend at the time, and that was an awkward conversation to have. And I just remember like being in like the doctor's clinic and him being like, oh, you can send an anonymous text. And I was like, it's my boyfriend. I can't really do that. And
Yeah.
being like, how do I talk about this? And then I was like, okay, they definitely in school should not be teaching all about like these are STIs, symptoms, they're bad, don't get them. They should be teaching you what to do when you do contract
you
one,
get them,
because
yeah.
one in two under 25 are going to contract an STI. So like we need to know how to then navigate that, because obviously then if you don't know how, you're less likely to communicate about it with past sexual partners. It's going to keep spreading. Like it's just their current approach isn't working. And I obviously spoke to him about it, but then he didn't go and get treated properly. So I contracted it again.
Fuck's sake.
And-
He's broken the law by doing that.
Yeah.
That's actually
Yeah.
illegal.
I
That's
think
the
that
way
is
they
for
motivate
HIV,
you. They don't
isn't
give you the information. No, it's the same for
I didn't know about
chlamydia.
that.
There's a register, and if you contract a sexually transmitted disease, you go onto the register, and you have to inform any other sexual partner of, obviously HIV or chlamydia is one
I
of
didn't
them.
know chlamydia was included in
one of
that.
the
That's very
hepatitis
interesting.
Yeah, because I know they are working on changing it, especially for ones like HIV, because you can have an undetectable viral load. So I'm not exactly, I can't remember the exact law. I was across it, but I can't remember.
I
straight off
remember
the top
being
of my
told
head
that
now,
by the doctor though. They were like, even just getting tested, and it turned out to just be a UTI, but I was getting tested in the assumption that it was
Good clarification,
probably chlamydia,
Yeah.
which was pretty funny because it was when I'm like 15, my girlfriend's 15, we were both like virgins basically before this. It's the only relationship we've been in.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you've probably got chlamydia from your girlfriend, and I'm like, she's a fucking saint. What are you talking about? And he's like,
Dorothy, man, dude,
and he's
this is
like,
saint.
nah, you never know, man. Like, and
Oh,
I was
shit.
like, mate, I do know, and I fucking resent that statement. And it turned out to be
It's very
UTI.
cavalier of you.
But he told me at the time, he was like, it's actually illegal. for you not to communicate this to sexual partners now that it's
Yeah,
come to your
I
attention?
I do think they have changed it though, because they were running into like it was a bit discriminatory.
This was the fucking late
And because I know
80s.
they had to around HIV laws, they had to like end up changing it. Because they were being able to use that against people living with HIV to put them, in jail and stuff.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, anyway, so I got it again, and then I was like, okay, I obviously didn't communicate about that well enough, and then turned into pelvic inflammatory disease, had to have a laparoscopy, so I went down like the surgery path, and I was like,
That can
holy
affect
shit, I'm
fertility
so
too.
uneducated, and I just realized that I was like a really open person, like mum and dad knew about like chlamydia straight away, everyone knew about it, and I just realized every time I was talking about it, no one was starting these conversations, but every time I started it, everybody wanted to talk about it. Everybody had a story. And I was like,
cool.
okay. Then I found like sexologists on Instagram, sex positive accounts, people living with herpes. That was a big one because I had I had herpes another time, and like found all these people who were just, talking about sex and trying to break down this stigma. And I was like, I want to join this movement of like this sex positivity. I was like, this is so cool. I love talking about this. And then, found sexology, found the course I wanted to do, changed to my psych degree, did that. And then, the sexology.
So were you studying something else before, or?
Yeah, I was doing criminology, so
dope.
it was
move.
because
Good
originally I wanted
switch.
to do international relations, which was like completely random, and was meant to go to Canberra to do it, but then I went and visited Canberra a couple of times. I was like, fuck Canberra, I can't do that, so I picked a random course at Deakin, moved to Geelong, did crim. It was like it felt like such a nothing course. No offense to people doing crim, and then thank God I found like chlamydia pretty much, like it changed everything for me, so
Thanks,
I was very
chlamydia.
grateful.
You
Went
did
from
it. You
putting
just
people-
sponsored an entire career.
Went from putting people away to getting people off. Or popping
Jealous.
little people out.
Yeah. No, I
Getting
love
people
how
off.
candidly you're speaking about this too, because I do think there's such a stigma, particularly around STDs.
Yeah.
And the way that, everyone's very hush hush or shamey about it. Like I remember in high school, it was the same for us. It was always like a very, can you believe this person got that? But you're right, like the statistics and the prevalence of individuals that are like under the age of 25 that are getting them, like it's so common.
I think
it's so fucking common that it needs to be normalized.
And I think it's
It's
amazing.
just like literally a part of sex.
100%.
And it's amazing that's the reason why you got into it, because without having made that judgment that the question was talking about, in some way I was like, like if I see a psychologist who's got some sort of psychiatric problems themselves, I'm like, they probably got into it to solve their problems. Or if I see someone who gets into sexology, I'm like, they probably just fucking kinky, not that that's actually what I think and it's a judgment I form, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm like, that's what they're about. That's their motivation. And so you sort of think of it in that way. But it's not like you're just like, I was just always a fucking horny kid, and so I just decided to do it. You're actually like,
that would play.
Obviously, you've got into that situation. You've got into those situations in the first place. But it's good that you've got to a point where you're like, a lack of knowledge and information exists on this. Yeah. I'm able to talk about this, and people are listening. No one else is talking about this. There's only one other person in my locality. There's a fucking space for me to talk about something I care about. So it's really following your bliss,
Yeah.
And so it's
and you can see it when you talk
bound
about
to be
it.
a success.
Yeah, you get very passionate about it, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll skip all those ones. So out of your client bases and stuff, generally speaking, is it predominantly singles, couples, male couples, male-female couples, female couples? What would be the predominant?
Individuals, non-binaries.
Probably. Yeah, so probably people who identify as women who are either single or coupled.
Yeah, you said that before. I really should have cleaned these up.
Yeah.
All right.
What are, I guess, the most commonly reported kind of either relationship, or actually, I'm not going to say either, for both relationship and sexual difficulties that you have come across so far with clients, or even what your course had said to prepare for if you don't have enough information together just yet?
Yeah. I'm definitely exploring sexuality, whether that be they are in a heterosexual presenting relationship, but one person's queer and doesn't feel like that's being explored or validated. But then also in the sense of you know, having sex in different ways and just trying to find their sexual identity within their relationship or individually. And then mismatched desire is another big one. A lot of couples just think that they're meant to both be on the same page all the time, but that's obviously not the case.
Yeah.
And then anorgasmia, or just like people who are struggling to orgasm, either never have or in certain contexts.
These were all really dope. So let's go back. So there was the mismatch.
Sex drives.
That
so
one.
Low versus high.
So with that,
I
right?
want to ask about that too.
Yeah. So how, like, because obviously the couple won't know, right, that they're mismatched. How do you have that conversation with them and be like, so what I'm feeling is, you like this sort of shit, you like this sort of shit. You guys don't know, you
I
don't
think
like.
I meant
about frequency
a
in
different
sex,
thing as
because,
well.
like,
But
someone
go
has
on
a
with
high
that.
sex
And I'll
drive.
So
That is
how do you
what
have
I'm
that
saying.
conversation with the
I got
couple?
the same one, I think.
Well, often, like, it's more the frequency of sex and intimacy. That's more of it. When it comes to like them actually being interested in different things, it would often like come up. You can either they've already had a conversation and somebody is not as open or doesn't want to explore that, and then it's a conversation of, okay, if there's nowhere to meet in the middle, how can you explore this on your own or individually to get satisfaction yourself? And if you can't do that, then is this relation like what's your priorities? Is it like within this relationship? If it's getting that need met, then maybe this relationship obviously isn't for you, but obviously I'm not going to come out
Maybe you
and
need
be like,
you
this
can't.
Maybe
relationship
you need
isn't right for you.
some amyl and a lot of lube.
Or a will, want, won't list, but yes.
Yeah, but when it comes to mismatched desire, often couples already know because someone's being like, you're not having sex with me. Why aren't we
So
ever
it's
having
usually
sex?
very obvious. You haven't had the thing where it's like,
the
The partner's
elephant in the
usually
room.
resenting another partner for not having enough sex, or
And that's-
them feeling pressured to have sex.
That was
is the,
the
most
thing
common
that
thing.
I've thought about when you first said the
what
mismatch.
I
I
get
was
in
like,
comments.
it's a mismatch in the amount that each person wants to have sex.
Yeah.
But and there's also because there's a general default state. Like someone's like, I'm the horny one in the relationship, you know, and the other one's, you know, I'm the horny one too. And then you get into that relationship and you see how it actually plays out. And then there'll be like a dance of intimacy. There'll be times when it's more available and taken, and then there'll be the converse of that. And then there'll be reasons that underpin, you know, what that
Sexual
desire and
inhibitory
dynamic. And yeah, there's a whole lot of
systems.
other elements to it as well. Do you delve in to that sort of stuff? Like, to what are the reasons?
Of course. I think one of the first things I'll touch on is a bit of education around desire. So there's like responsive and then spontaneous desire. Often when there's a mismatch, one's spontaneous, one's responsive. So like spontaneous is that like you are just can be instantly be turned on. You can see
Like
a
the
sex scene on
toilets.
TV and be ready to go, or just somebody, you know, touching your shoulder or is touching you in a certain way. You're having a spontaneous reaction and are sexually aroused. Whereas the responsive desire could be like, okay, you come home from work and you need everything to be right. You can't have the dishes in the sink. You need to sit down on the couch and have somebody like, you know, give you a massage and like slowly build it up, have the right context.
The first one was the guy, the second one's the girl.
It's very stereotypical.
Yeah,
And-
so
and-
stereotypically,
your
yes.
And the reason I'm saying that is because I recently heard this thing about, I'm not trying to hijack your answer, but it's really just
okay.
triggered this thing that I heard very recently and was talking to someone about. And it said that the brain and the genitals, you know, they're at the opposite ends of the
body.
Kundalini chakra energy field, I was going
Okay.
to say. But yeah, body's
No
the other
worries,
one.
hippie
You
boy.
can say body as well. No, I was
Yeah.
going to say body. They're at opposite ends of the spectrum. You got your mind and genitals, and they're not always on the same page.
Yeah, well, what like it's called like non-coordinates, where like your brain and your genitals don't match up, and often I think, especially for men, they have been socialized to think that an erection means wanting to have sex, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that. Whereas for vulva owners, it's not as obvious to know if you're aroused or not. So you don't just have that, oh, I can see that, you know, this is hard, I might be sexually aroused.
And on the
so
flip
it's a lot
side,
harder
men
to
would be
have
like-
that.
And on the flip side, men would be like, oh yeah, you're wet. Like, let's see, you want it, sort of, you know, be that sort of.
Yeah,
mentality.
whereas our bodies can obviously respond, but we're not mentally stimulated.
And I was going to say, we usually need up to 20 to 25 minutes of arousal before we actually can get
Like
ourselves
20
started as
to
a vulva.
40.
Yeah.
There you go.
20 to 40
Cliff
minutes.
note. Put that on a
Totally.
little.
Sorry for the
So,
awkward
foreplay,
segue
guys.
into that, but
Yeah.
it was a topic that
Mate.
I wanted to broach.
Drop the R bomb. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to edit that out now.
Did I drop the R-bomb in amongst that?
Yeah.
Not
And then reference that it wasn't the oil.
the etard.
Oh, that R word. I
Yeah.
thought you meant the other R
No.
word.
No,
There's
not
too
that
many
one.
fucking words
Yes.
these days.
Anyway, thank you for graciously handing that. That was very
It's
well.
okay.
Thanks, Em. You saved me. You remembered why
She did.
I segued into that bullshit. So, good job.
Non-concordance for those who wanted to go back to that. So, what is, I guess, your main field in the research space? So, you said that you recently just finished your study. So, I'm wondering if you did like a thesis or had like a research project, and what was it? Was it to do with chlamydia and STD prevalence? Like, I was very interested in that from my little info dump geeky side of things.
So I didn't actually do a thesis, so I haven't really done research. Whenever I have done even just like little bits, a lot of it's actually been more focused on like sex work. I'm really passionate about
beautiful.
like sex work, decrim, or decriminalization of sex work, and kind of around that space. So yeah, I've done like anytime I have done little bits here and there, it's been more around that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Cool.
Okie dokie.
Are there any firm no's or challenging clients that you'd be less likely to take on, and why? For example, BPD, sexual violence, type of things.
So there isn't necessarily anybody I wouldn't take on, but I have boundaries within my practice. So I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to try and treat or help with things that I'm not qualified to help for. So if I think that they would benefit from seeing a psychologist at the same time, or going and seeing a psychologist then coming back, then I will refer them on. It just depends, because it's more like, it's in the sex therapy field, but it's more like sex coaching, like giving like education, tips, homework, things like that, and talking things through, working out, why you have these thoughts, feelings around sex, whatever, but not necessarily like if there's any trauma, anything like that, that's for somebody else.
Get your
who's more
fundamental problems out of the way, and we can put the cherry on the cake once you've.
And that's true. So, like, I guess what a lot of people would probably be thinking, like, because you did mention like homework and stuff like that. What's like it's hard to say if you'd have like a common prescribed homework, but is there like
I've got a bit of a regime.
something that you could commonly like give to like a wide range of issues? It's a good place to start for people like that you would often prescribe, I guess.
Yeah, so the most common one would be sensate focus. So that's where you're like trying to get more in tune with your body sensations and not judging the touch that you're experiencing. So for anybody who's never orgasmed, struggles to orgasm, you're struggling with desire in a relationship, struggling with an erection, literally it covers so much. And it kind of ties into mindfulness. So you kind of like, you start off, say you're in a couple, it's kind of the easiest way to talk about it. You start off 15 minutes touching one partner, but you're not allowed to touch their genitals. And you're not trying to touch them in a way you think they'll enjoy it. Like, you're not trying to give them a massage. You're just trying to touch all over their body, and they're just there to see how that feels. Do you like the firmness, the texture? Like, how is it feeling? And not judging it, and just sitting with it for 15 minutes. Then swapping, doing the other partner. Then you get to genital touching, where you're touching genitals, but same kind of thing. You're not just trying to get them off. Like, it's more just how do these sensation feels, and trying different ways. And then taking that to mutual touching the next week. Generally you do it like week on week, depending on how long you kind of need to sit in there and how it's feeling.
Yep.
And then the last stage is bringing in, like, if you have penetrative sex, bringing in penetrative sex, or however that looks for you. But doing it really slowly. So it's just getting really kind of in tune with how everything's feeling, noticing the thoughts coming up, not judging them, but then kind of reflecting later, okay, like, why was I feeling maybe insecure about this, or you really didn't like this, or actually I really liked when you touched the back of my thigh. I didn't realize that was somewhere that I like to be touched.
It's actually like really cool to point that out, because you don't, like, as obviously the layman or whatever, you don't think of like how quick stuff happens in a sexual environment, right? And it's literally a simple process of being like, oi dudes, just slow the fuck down, and you're breaking it, and then you can actually kind of think about what's happening, and you slowly ramp it up. And even when you get to that last little bit, there's still so much thought that you're putting into it.
It's very conscious as a process.
Which is like, you think you should, but intuitively you don't, which is terrifying.
That's what
but really cool. I like that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Absolutely. And I feel like when you tell somebody, like when you've got, say, people who are having like a sexist relationship or the problems in that aspect,
Yep.
and you tell them you can't have sex while you're doing this, like you're not allowed to for that 15, 30 minutes, however long you're doing this, all of a sudden they want to fuck each other. And like,
That's- It's true.
Yeah,
That's
because
the
you're building
forbidden
that
fruit, yeah.
desire.
The minute you create a rule, don't do this. Oh fuck! Now I want to. Amazing.
Yeah.
Pay me more money, please. That's the
This reminds
best.
me of that Taylor fucking comedian chick. She recently did a segment about that.
She might be coming to Australia.
I'm
That's
actually
what you
keen to
s-
see her. She's
that's-
fucking funny.
That's what they should do. Is they
Like,
should just
I
give
don't know,
you
find out next
give
week
you
with
a
your credit card.
placebo chlamydia diagnosis and go. You guys can't have
Yeah,
sex for
literally.
a while, but you just
Placebo.
need
Have
to
the best
touch
sex of
each
your
other,
life.
and then you can fuck each other in 2 weeks' time.
They risk it and get tested anyway. Turns out neither of you have chlamydia.
No, no one gets tested. The doctor just goes, just pee in this cup and he tips it down the sink, and then he gives you the.
I feel like the ethics on that one is a little bit questionable, but I do like the idea.
It's a study, actually. It's a double-blind study that I'm suggesting.
Double-blind
that you
study.
find.
The doctor gets told that it's chlamydia.
Yeah, no, the doctor's the one.
And then it's
He's
a
in on the
researcher
whole
pouring the
fucking
piss
scheme,
down the
don't
sink.
worry.
All right, so if you had advice for single individuals looking to get into a relationship, what would you, I guess, from your holistic, because you'd see like a lot of kind of relationship issues and things like that, and what would you kind of offer them as advice if they're looking to enter into the relationship space and they find like they're not really kind of hitting that?
Yes, work out like what you actually want. Like really sit down, journal, work out what hasn't worked in the past, what does work. You might need a date in that process because sometimes if you haven't dated for a while, you don't really remember what you like or not like, don't like, or it might have changed. And it's not till you have someone in front of you that you're like, oh, I really hate that. So definitely try to work out like what you like kind of want. Definitely trying to be as true to yourself as you can, even though that's such a like you say that statement, but like what does that
You
mean?
change. The thing is, you
But-
change. Like if you
Yeah.
really like someone, that you'll end up in these situations. You're like, fuck, I realized that I just really liked that person, and it's not a fit. But I tried.
It's
like,
not
so
easy.
hard to
Me
make it.
literally doing powerlifting for my ex.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not a
like,
powerlifter,
it's-
but I
in
can fucking
theory,
bench
it
like there's no
sounds
tomorrow.
good.
So to be fair, I did
Yeah.
gain strength, both emotional and physical.
I think also trusting your gut. Like if you're dating somebody and your gut's like, no,
That's
listen
massive.
to it.
Yeah,
It's doing
gut
it for a
issues.
reason. Every time I've ever fucking not listened, it never worked. Like it just ignoring it doesn't help. And I think just putting yourself out there too. Like you're not gonna find your long-term relationship sitting on the couch. Like
Yeah.
you have to get out there. Even, if you have to sit on the couch first on dating apps and then get out there, you've got to go on dates. And if also challenge the way you've currently been dating. Like if you're finding, okay, the past 5 years I've been single, like what are you doing that's not working? Or are you not having maybe enough boundaries? Or like, I don't know, you just got to, I guess, kind of change and challenge yourself in the way that you are dating.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think you're on the money there. The times that I've not felt right about a relationship in my gut, they've not worked out. But also none of the other relationships have worked out either at all. So, I don't know whether it's my gut or it's
Part of
just
the process.
all of me. But
we do devote a
think
lot
it's
of
them.
energy to kind of suppressing it and being like, no, that's just like the negative voice inside my head. And you just instantly dismiss any like negative
Yeah, you
feelings
do.
that you have.
and it's a funny thing. I think about that
Devastating.
when I think, why didn't someone warn me about my not crazy ex? Because there were people who knew who could have warned me. But then I realized, I'm like, if someone came to me and said, this is what this person is and what their potential is, I wouldn't have fucking believed them anyway. Like I would have been so far into that. I would have gone, no, you've misunderstood her. All the stories she told me about that, it's totally different.
It's so true though, because you don't listen to advice like regardless. If you're so invested in someone, like I had everyone talking about that specific ex that you guys both know, and I was like, I know, but I love him.
And I had
It's fuck all what you say, because how dare you, like you're supposed to be my friend, you're supposed to be my family. This is the person, you have to support me. And they're like, we support you, your choice is less so. So I think
you have
that's
the gut feeling, but you sort of hope for something
it's
else.
hope. I reckon that's the
Yeah,
That's
you
the
romanticize them. Often
And
when
as
you
soon as they
first
go into a
meet somebody,
personal-
they put on a good front, and then you have hope. You can hold on to those moments, and obviously your brain's going to try and hold on to the good instead of the
Intimate
bad.
reinforcement's good like that too. It's just like gambling.
Yeah,
Of course, you're going to sustain a relationship if it's like that.
100%.
You get a reward every now and then.
Yeah, and especially if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of self-confidence or self-worth, or you have that lower than what you value the relationship, then like it's just going to be until you really like learn, and you have to learn the hard way, unfortunately, really, in those ones.
Very true.
Yeah, and as you get older, it seems to not get any easier, but eventually you kind of
I think you
develop.
pick healthier partners
Yeah.
over time.
Well, that's the thing
Healthier.
is you do develop the choice, and I can see it with you as well. Like
I've gotten a
As
lot
you
better
get
with my
older,
fucking
so much
dating
better.
style. Yeah.
I think as you get older, it definitely gets easier. If it doesn't, we're all fucked. Like,
Let's stay hopeful.
But okay, so this is a little like a quick little sex tip for everyone that listens. Do you know like anything that's we call them a little sex enhancement for couples
You
or
call it
singles?
that.
Little things you can do
Because it's so
in the
lame.
bedroom that would kind of spice things up if they feel like it's
Yeah,
getting
what's some
stagnant.
spicy hot sex tips?
Okay, I don't know if it's like spicy, but it will feel spicier. This is something everybody can do, either individually with solo sex or if you're having sex with a partner or partners. It's kind of like a mindfulness thing, but like breathing in and then breathing out through your genitals or wherever is being stimulated. Because when you breathe in and then like focus almost like that air, like breathing out through your genitals, obviously your attention goes there. Everything will be heightened. It feels so much better. It's like I remember the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God, being focused and actually present makes such a difference. And it's something simple that you can do everywhere. You don't need any props or like sex toys, or like you can do it in any location with anyone or just yourself. And it can make a massive difference to the sex you're having and help you get out of your head and like into your body.
I'm
Do you
doing
mean
it.
just
I'm
being
doing it
more
right now, and it feels fucking amazing.
Do you mean just like conscious with your breath? Because I would make a note and say that a lot of people that are on their way to climax, and at least myself included in that, I will hold my
too.
breath, and I prefer to hold my breath because that actually makes it a lot nicer for me personally.
Yeah.
Breathing deeply, of course, can be nice too, but I wonder if it's just about the consciousness of the process, or is it mostly the breath?
Yes.
Builds intensity.
I think about the consciousness of the process. You can use your breath for different reasons during sex. Like obviously you can hold it. There's like people have like strangulation kinks, things like that,
Yep.
because that can heighten it as well. And then there's also people who are like on the other end who are into more like tantric sex, where you can really focus on certain types of breathing, like box breathing, where you like say breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and then 4 again, or really fast breathing. Like you can tap into your breath in so many different ways to get a different sensation when you do orgasm.
So, and that would be stuff that, do you have clients come to you with like, hey, like I want to have better sex and stuff? Or is it usually like through a kind of a treatment-y type thing? You're like, we can do this. So if it, obviously we'll put your details out there later, but if people want to learn this stuff, obviously they can come to you. And
Yeah,
can you-
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Like obviously some people do come and they're like, I just, want to have better sex, or the sex we're having currently isn't working, or like obviously if you're somebody who's struggling to orgasm, using your breath can be something that can be a really good anchor in that situation.
I just like to insert one, if you'll again pardon my one. But what is you mentioned tantric sex there? I've sort of heard of that before in the context of Sting, the police fame. But what is sex magic, and do you have any knowledge of it? And how does that relate? How do those three, this, art, and sexology, relate to one another?
So I'm not really across sex magic. Are you meaning just like tantric sex coming under that?
In a sense.
Or is it
yeah.
a whole separate? No, I'm actually not across sex magic. Something
There's
I'm
a
not across.
different. I'm not completely. There's different disciplines and areas of it, which I'm not completely across as well. But it does have some overlap into tantric sex in a lot of cases. Depends on how it's done, obviously.
Can you explain? Because I think all of us have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh well. So like tantric
spiritual.
sex is
No, I know, we know tantric sex, but the sex magic stuff.
It's
I've
a
never heard
similar
that
thing as
before.
well. So there's like part of like tantric sex. It's like withholding an orgasm
Orgasm's not the
withholds
goal.
your sexual energy, and sex magic's something about that, withholding your sexual energy, filling of seed, overflowing cups, and all that type of thing. So they're obviously sex magic's in woo-woo type land.
Yeah.
And
Woo-woo
overlap.
sex, yeah.
Yeah, or just nonsense, just magic thinking, and then you've got overlap into tantric sex, which is somewhat recognized, and then you've got sexology, and I'm just wondering what of those thing, like what you see the overlap of those things are. More, I'm just asking
Honestly,
if you know about sexology.
yeah, no, I
yeah.
don't have an answer for you. Sorry, I'll have to go and do my
well.
research. But I
Don't
don't know
spend
if
too
there's
much
another
time.
term that people use for it that I just haven't. But like, yeah,
I think it's
something
like
I'm
the
not across.
conspiracy theory side of that thing. So don't waste too much time when you research. Just stick with
It's
your
all that
stick with your
CSE, mate.
holistic stuff. Yeah, CSE for sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So back on to I think we're thinking a few questions left, so we're almost there. What people are going to be there and they'll be like, look, you know, am I having enough sex with my partner or alone? I guess what would be the average amount of sex that people have across? So we're not saying it's healthy or unhealthy, but what do you feel or know of to be the average number of sex?
Average
Yeah,
number
so-
of
Average
sex.
number of
Singular
sex.
sex.
Really?
These days, there's
Like,
thousands of sexes,
under,
Noosh. There used to be
sir.
two.
Sorry, I was
and now
thrown by the
there's-
sex magic, and I'm like, how do we bring this back?
Love and sex and magic. Ooh.
Yeah. So what's the
There
average
really
number? People
isn't. There really isn't. Though, like,
Yep.
every couple's so different. There's context, the circumstances. Like, I wouldn't be able to give an average. It really just depends on like what their presenting problem is. Like some people could be having sex all the time, but like it's not the sex that they want to have. So it really depends. Yeah, like for what that is. When you're looking at more, I guess, like sexless marriages scientifically, that would be seen as like if you have sex less than 10 times a year and you're in a relationship, that's seen as like a sexless marriage. However, there's obviously people who are like asexual, and like if you're not having any problems, like it doesn't really matter how much you're having sex.
Yeah, so I guess that the definition of that is kind of if you're fine in the relationship space with that, then there is no magic number for anyone to be having more or less sex. It's like if you feel like you need to have more, then maybe you do, and if you don't, then you don't. It's nice that it's that simple, and there's like no, you know, oh no, you're not fucking enough, you need to go and get it fixed, because you do hear that, right, a lot. Like people will say, oh, such and such only sleep together 2 times a week, and how many people I get a lot of people in couples that will ask like how much I sleep with Amy and stuff, and then like they'll either be shocked or then like you'll hear nothing.
I don't think that's a decent question to ask.
Well, when you're close with people, it's like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I think a
But
lot of people
also
that have
with,
been
like,
with people for a
context,
while
right,
get
it's so
curious.
important.
I'll wait till after the podcast until I ask you that question.
Yeah,
But
I know
I
the
think
answer.
that's weird. In a way, I won't ask you that question, but it's like really weird that someone would ask that question.
No, but it's
How
a
much
normal one
having
because
sex.
people use social like questions like that to compare for
yeah.
themselves.
'Cause like
Am I
Em was
having
saying, so
the same
person
amount
is
of sex
most
as my
likely
mates
feeling
are because
they're
I don't
probably
know if I'm
having less
adequate
than
at
they
that?
should.
Or,
So
yeah,
they're
so
asking
it's part of
to
that
kind of-
mismatch as well. That's how we
I get
socially
it.
clue into
I
that.
get it. You're like, oh well, these guys
Yeah.
they have sex multiple times a
Yeah.
week, and we're only having sex.
But see, when you
once a
speak to the professionals, like if you feel like you're not having enough, then you're not having enough,
week. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Am I fucking
It's
that
just
up?
your
Or?
gauge.
It might not be
Stop
a matter
me,
of
Cameron.
if you feel like you're not having enough, you're not having enough, because it could be a societal pressure that they're feeling that. It's that, are you content? Are you feeling sexually satisfied? Or is there this mismatch in desire? Maybe how can we meet in the middle?
Are you missing out on
yeah.
something, or does someone feel obliged, type of thing, almost? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just challenging. Okay, why do you think you're not having enough sex? Like, what is it that, why is that? Then I guess, going forward, that information, working out whether it's, something that's actually like causing distress or a problem that they would like try and like, I guess, improve.
Yeah. And it might be like as simple as, sitting down with someone like yourself and then being like, there's actually, it's the right number. You're fine. You just need to put less pressure on yourself. It's okay. And which would,
Absolutely.
I hope, would be most people's kind of situations they end up in. Because you do. There's, like you said, the social pressure feels like, if I'm not fucking like as much as possible, then there's something wrong. The relationship's starting to crumble and,
Well,
They
yeah,
also reduce
socially.
over time from
But
the
but it
beginning.
shouldn't be driven by what. Because socially, then that's what other people. Because you're like, we have sex 5 times
But it's
a week.
easy to get pulled into that, right?
And it's
Yeah,
also a
but also
gauge because
don't-
people don't know what's normal and not, so they
Don't
ask
tell them.
mates because
If
they're
you
not
feel
gonna...
like you're not coming enough, just have a couple of wanks here and there. Like, it doesn't have to be.
Professional
But it could be
opinion on that?
something else though, because it might not just be
You're like,
about
"Don't
having
do
self-stimulation.
Yeah, because your goal shouldn't be orgasm, should be pleasure. And sometimes that's intimacy. People have sex for different reasons. So it's for intimacy, it's for pleasure, orgasms, it's to have a baby, it's for work. Like there's so many different reasons why people have sex. So
I said wank, but I didn't say cum, and I didn't necessarily. No, I didn't.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
The point I'm making is I didn't mean nooch if you're not having enough sex. Just fucking jerk a few out.
That's what it sounded like.
No,
What do you mean?
well, it did sound like that because that's you. But what it also meant was like if a female's not getting what they want in some way in a relationship, that they would go, you know, like I've been in a casual relationship with someone who we don't see each other that much. She's masturbating, you know, on her
Masturbation
own.
doesn't serve the same thing as sex at times, and sometimes you want that, and that's where you'd make a conversation or have a conversation with a partner, and you'd go,
Yeah.
how are your needs being met? How are mine? Yes, I can include masturbation, but maybe I'm seeking this more with you. And if that partner can't meet you, that's where you start to negotiate the conditions of
Exactly.
the relationship.
Perfect.
Because a lot of it's about intimacy too, like having that connection, and sex is a really big connection point with intimacy for a lot of people, especially if they're lacking intimacy in other parts of their life.
Do we have any water? Sorry, my heart
do
is
you want-
going to
do you want some of-
120
this
and
is
I'm
probably
like
gonna make it
literally
worse, though.
seated right now.
That's all right. We've only got a few questions. Okay. So, this might be you, Lil.
Are we skipping the kink question?
Oh, we can't. No, we can go into that.
What's the most interesting kink that you've learned about whilst being a sexologist?
Yeah, so there isn't honestly just one. I don't know if it's just being a sexologist. Nothing is like
Can we hear about
surprising.
the
Like
top ones, top 5 maybe?
top 5. I
three?
don't even know
Just
because it's
all
one of
the
those
interesting
things. Like
ones.
I've heard this thing. It's like if it's not on Pornhub, it's not real. Like my drink bottle, for instance. If it's not on Pornhub, there's a Frank Green drink bottle on Pornhub. Like
There's
there's literally a kink for everything.
There's a website called rule34.com and it goes back to this, you know, rule 34. If it exists, there's porn of it. And
Yep.
Yeah.
it's mostly just bullshit like CGI, fucking take a Futanari porns and shit like that. But yes, if it does exist, there is porn of it. But
Yeah.
which ones have you found most interesting that you've learned of?
One that's always just intrigued me has been like scat play, so like feces. It's just something that is so not sexual to me personally. So it's just, I feel like it's honestly, because kinks are so like subjective on like what you find. So I feel like the ones that intrigue me are probably the ones that are furthest from what I would probably engage
Do you
in.
get like pissing, like pissing in a girl's mouth, like or a girl pissing in a
I
guy's
mean,
mouth?
like I get it, but I'm not necessarily gonna go and do it
Do it.
myself.
Yeah.
Like not kink shaming. It's just like, you know, it's
not
not
for you.
my.
Yeah.
But I haven't tried it yet either. So
Yep,
you know,
don't.
you're gonna
I've
try
tried it
everything.
yet.
Like,
I like that you said yet. In
I
there.
mean, look, there's
Yeah.
some shit that you can look at and you'd be like, I just don't like that. You know, it can be fine to look at something and be like, that's not for me.
yeah, and that's fair. And I think other ones like needle play, knife play, like certain ones that are a bit more on that like edge play type stuff.
Do you
Yeah,
think that
it's
they're
just- I don't know.
sometimes born from like you know, past traumas and things like that? Those sort of things.
Potentially, it depends. Like they can come from so many different things.
I was going to say, is it super varied, like the stimulus to a kid?
yeah, absolutely.
Is
Like
there
it can be
but is it usually just like a big emotional reaction to something? Like, is there a basis in it, or is it's literally so varied that
Because
it's hard to pinpoint?
yes and no. Like obviously for some people there is, for some other people it's not. They just tried something and
Yeah.
they like it, or they watched something once and they were just fascinated by it and
Yep.
want to try it and actually enjoy it
That's-
themselves. Like there's so many different reasons why, and it can be cultural too. Like feet fetishes, for instance, in some cultures,
Yep.
like you're made to kiss your grandmother's feet, or you know people's feet when you're a child, and like, or you know, there's things around that. So then you grow up and you kind of like, oh, I kind of like that, or you're just more, I guess, potentially
That's
prone to enjoying
cool.
that, or like
Yeah.
also the more you talk about it, like I was interviewing a sex worker once and she was telling me like about foot fetishes and how like, you know, the more you joke about it and talk about it, the more likely you're going to end up trying it and
So true.
potentially liking it, or like, yeah.
See, because we said this about Bill. So we had a viewer that would always
Into
talk
pegging.
about pegging, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
kept saying, like, he's got to be into pegging for sure. And it was literally every episode for about, was it like 3.5
I think he still
months?
does
he
it
end up
every now
getting
and then.
pegged?
Yeah.
Did he get pegged?
No.
Oh.
Well,
But-
not that we know.
Okay.
See? We got proof,
Okay.
Bill.
No, but it's true. Same with like my ex with the foot fetish
He's
stuff.
gone now
remember?
because he realized he wasn't going to get to peg you. Because
No,
it
he
was
still
you.
watches. He just doesn't talk anymore.
He was after you. He wanted to peg you
What can I
specifically.
say? It's a
No, he
very
wanted
nice
you to
fun.
get pegged, and he wanted to
He wanted to
hear
see
about it.
That's all right. Okie dokie. So are we up to our last question?
Mhm.
Do you want to take this one, Bill?
Sure. So, how do you gauge the line between what would be considered healthy and unhealthy sexual behavior? So, have you ever had to tell clients, and I guess starting out you may not have, but do you ever kind of speak to clients if they're leaning into more dangerous sides of things, or if they're kind of using something as a coping mechanism rather than for pleasure? Thinking more on the like nymphomaniac. I don't think that's what they're called anymore. I think it's just individuals.
Oh, it's like compulsive sexual behavior.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like with paraphilias, or I guess clients that are edging on that more dangerous side, or like harmful sides of engaging.
Paraphilia?
Paraphilias are in the DSM-5, not that we should be going off them, but it is essentially a fetish where you need to do something in terms of like sexual behavior in order to be aroused and to get off.
Okay.
And that's different to kink, where it's someone has a preference to do those things but does not require
This is
them every
required.
time.
Ah.
Yeah. And they're often like outside of what's considered normal sex. Yeah, so basically for that, it depends. If it's consensual, that's the first thing. If it's not consensual, then obviously we have like an issue. But then also if it's starting to interfere with your daily life, if you're, you are no longer going to work because you need to masturbate and watch porn, or if it's distressing you. So that would generally be like when it's like, okay, this is becoming potentially an unhealthy sexual behavior. How can we address this and look at that? There's no necessarily like, apart from like, obviously non-consensual things, unhealthy sexual behaviors really, because that can be kind of stigmatizing to certain people.
Yeah.
Are there
It's
people,
more just if it's causing you distress or interfering with daily life.
so are there people who are bringing up work calling a sickie because they need to masturbate and watch porn for the day out there?
Yeah, well, there's definitely people who have like more like it's generally called compulsive sexual behaviors now instead of like sex addiction, because that can be like it has issues in itself using those labels. But yeah, no, absolutely. There's people like who will prioritize or like feel this they have to do. It's like any like other compulsions really. Like if you're smoking or drinking alcohol, gambling, whatever, like sex, it can feel really addictive. Yeah.
And especially because like the dopamine hit from it, right, is like so intense, and it's an easy one to access. You're like, this is my happy button. Let's keep doing that as much as humanly possible. And then before you know it, you're in a deep dark fucking hole, and you're not going to work,
the button's
and
fucking wrecked.
you're not going out, you're not doing anything, and you're stuck. I could see how that would fucking become a massive issue, actually. But hopefully not in Geelong.
I've
Or
experienced.
hopefully in Geelong, because then businesses. I'm kidding.
I've experienced and heard of those type of issues and people getting to that sort of position in their life before, but and I could even picture it on account of alcohol or drugs or something, but I never would have thought masturbation. It's almost a comical image to me.
Yeah.
Someone's like, no, I can't
Because it
come.
becomes a vice, right?
Yeah.
So it's
It's a grip like vice, actually.
well
White
done.
knuckle fever, I think. It's called.
Okay. So that's kind of brought us to the end of our little deep dive into sexology. Thanks for coming on today. It was fucking awesome. I know it was a bit all over the shop, but you're incredibly patient and awesome with us. But for everyone listening at home, where can they find you and reach you on your socials? I'll bring it up on the screen as well.
So you can find me on Instagram, it's That's Orgasmic, or my podcast, That's Orgasmic. And then also I have my website, Emily Duncan Sexology. And there's also an Instagram for that, but I haven't really used it as much.
Excellent. Fucking
Awesome.
nice.
Thank you so much for everything. That was very nice for my brain to have talks
Yeah, did
about
you?
my spin.
You do this thing when you get content. Sometimes you get like super quiet, but you just smile.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna get so many smiling shots of you for like, the whole podcast. It's gonna be the
It'll be
best.
the first time you ever see me
You-
smile that much.
Well, we'll get more guests on that you've been pining after for some time.
Just the actual nerd, geeky, info dumpy spaces I like. Because this
Yeah.
is my spin.
Yeah. We'll get
Anytime,
more. We'll keep getting
just
more.
anything about sex.
There you go.
That was really good. Thanks for bringing us up to speed and sharing with us.
Yeah, mate.
And good luck.
definitely
No
we'll
worries. Thank you
try and
for
get you in the
having me.
studio because it definitely does change the vibe a bit, like digital to like in the studio.
There's a slight lag, which makes it the timing of my jokes isn't coming off perfectly.
No,
as
they're
it
just the
normally
shit
does,
jokes,
but,
mate. That's not. That's
It's not- it's not the
definitely
timing.
There's-
Definitely the timing.
But so this is us signing off. Thank you very much, and we will see you guys next week.
What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting. The car's cold. The PRI will
Get the fuck out of here! What? Fucking warm it up. Get out of here!
All right.
You heard the man. Get out of here. Thanks for listening to Irrelevant Platitudes.
It's been going up to 1:30 the entire time. And that's been going to 1:30 the entire time. That's why I've been quiet as well.